In this video, we are going to talk about top 10 killers of all time, so before starting this video, please like this video, and subscribe to our channel for the future updates. When you think of psychology, the first thing that comes to mind might not be serial killers. Yet, psychologists have long tried to understand why some people become serial killers. Is there a genetic component? Is the environment in which the person grows up more to blame for their behavior? Or is it a combination of factors that turns some people into terrifying killers? While every case is different, psychologists have tried to point to a variety of factors that might mold someone into a serial killer. It is important to note that there is no particular cause of serial killing, but the traits tend to be common amongst serial killers. Here's a list of the top 10 killers of all time. Let's start. Number 10. Wayne Williams, body count, 2 to 31. Thought to be responsible for the infamous Atlanta child murders that took place in Atlanta, Georgia. Between the years of 1979 and 1981, Williams was actually convicted of the murder of two adult men, 29-year-old Jimmy Payne and 27-year-old Nathaniel Carter. It was after his arrest and subsequent conviction that local authorities were able to apparently solve the majority of the 29 child murders that took place in the area. He still protests his innocence to this day. Number 9. Dean Corll, body count, 27. Earning the nickname of the Candyman when his crimes were uncovered, due to him running his mother's small candy company, Corll was responsible for what would become known as the Houston mass murders, which took place in Houston, Texas, between the years of 1970 and 1973. Along with two accomplices, Elmer Wayne Henley and David Brooks, Corll would abduct and torture young boys that were lured to his apartment, then murdering and burying them in the surrounding rural areas. Corll was shot and killed by Henley following a heated argument at Corll's home. Number 8. John Wayne Gacy, body count, 33. Also known as the Killer Clown due to the fact that Gacy would throw parties at which he would don a clown suit and makeup, acting under the guise of Pogo the Clown. Gacy was convicted of the rape and murder of some 33 young men during the years of 1972 and 1978, most of which he buried underneath his own home. He was executed in 1994 by lethal injection. Number 7. Gary Ridgeway, body count, convicted of 48, but admitted somewhere around 90 killings. Ridgeway would later become known as the Green River Killer due to his propensity for dumping bodies in the Green River in Washington for his killing spree during the 1980s, which would result in him becoming one of the most prolific serial murderers in American history. He would abduct runaways or prostitutes and murder them after sexually assaulting them. Ridgeway was convicted in 2001 for murders that he had committed 20 years previously, and this was down to a breakthrough in DNA evidence linking him to his victims. Ridgeway would later go on to say that murdering young women was his career. Number 6. Moses Sithole, body count, 38 or so murders, 40 rapes. South Africa's most infamous serial killer and perpetrator of what were known as the ABC murders due to the fact that started, continued, and finished in towns named Atteridgeville, Boksburg and Cleveland. He would lead his victims out into deserted fields under false pretenses, where he would then overpower, rape and murder them. After his capture in 1995 and then conviction in 1997, he was sentenced to 2,410 years, with the possibility of parole in 930 years. In the year 2000, it was reported that Sithole had contracted AIDS whilst in prison. Number 5. Gerald Stano, body count, 41. An American, starting around the late 1960s to early 1970s and then continuing on for as many as 7 to 8 years, Stano picked up a number of hitchhikers and young women, murdering them via shooting, stabbing, or strangulation. Apprehended in 1980, he was sentenced to life in prison until his execution by the electric chair in Florida, 1998. Number 4. Andrei Chikatilo, body count, 53. A notorious Ukrainian serial murderer, as well as being a chronic bedwetter suffering from impotence, Chikatilo earned himself such titles as the Ripper of Rostov, the Rostov Ripper and the Butcher of Rostov, after the area in which the murders were committed. A sexual deviant, Chikatilo was only able to achieve orgasm by stabbing and slashing his victims, rather than outwardly raping them. Active from the late 1970s all the way through to the very early 1990s, he was apprehended and interrogated by police and sentenced to death, a sentence which was carried out in 1994 by a gunshot to the head. He was 57 at the time. Number 3. Bruno Ludwig, body count, 85. His regime spanned 15 years. Starting in 1928, Ludwig was caught near the end of World War II by Nazi police, after they allegedly discovered him committing necrophilia on the corpse of one of his recently deceased victims. He subsequently confessed to a number of crimes and was declared insane, being sent to a hospital in Vienna where he was subjected to medical experiments which resulted in his death by lethal injection in 1944. Even after his sterilization due to having been previously caught molesting a young woman, he continued to assault and then murder a number of other women, often by stabbing and strangulation. Number 2. Henry Lee Lucas, body count, somewhere in the region of 4 to 213. Originally confessing to thousands of murders with his accomplice Otis Toole, police then subsequently attributed roughly 213 murder cases to his name, although only 4 were ever solidly proven to have been committed by him, one of which included his own abusive mother, thanks to the information they garnered from Lucas. He was apprehended in 1983 and was then sentenced to death, but bizarrely enough, his sentence was commuted to life in prison by the then Governor George W. Bush. Number 1. Pedro Alonso Lopez, body count, 300 plus. By far one of the most prolific serial killers of all time, the monster of the Andes butchered enough people to fill a small town. After killing around 100 tribal women in Peru in the 1970s, he was apprehended by tribal forces that were just about ready to execute him when they were convinced by an American missionary that was staying with them at the time to take him to the police force instead. What do you think of our video? Let me know in the comments section below. If you enjoy this video and want to hear from me again, be sure to hit that subscribe button before you go. Thanks for watching.